Have you ever looked at a map and wondered why some countries just seem permanent? Well, today we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating examples on Earth, Iran. Welcome to The Explainer.
Think about it for a second. For centuries, empires from the Romans all the way to the British have come and gone. They've redrawn the map of the Middle East over and over again. But through it all, Iran has been a constant. Its core borders haven't really budged for over 600 years.
So, what's the deal? What is the secret to its incredible resilience? Well, it's not some single silver bullet. It's actually a super complex, multi-layered defense system. And today, we're going to peel back every single one of those layers.
All right, so let's set the stage. The central puzzle here is pretty simple. How has this one nation managed to resist conquest time and time again when so many of its neighbors haven't?
I mean, just look at what's happened in the last few decades alone. We've seen major powers go into countries like Libya, Iraq, and Syria and completely reshape them. But Iran? It remains defiant. And the first clue as to why? Well, it wasn't built by anyone. It's a gift from nature itself.
Okay, so picture a giant castle. But instead of walls built out of stone, it has massive mountains. And instead of a moat filled with water, it has scorching hot deserts. That right there is basically the geography of Iran. The country is almost completely wrapped in this ring of just enormous mountain ranges. You've got the massive Zagros Mountains in the south and west acting like a giant wall. Up north, the Alborz Range seals off the coast. Pretty much no matter which direction you come from, you're facing a natural barrier that makes a land invasion an absolute nightmare.
And you might be thinking, okay, but what about the gaps between the mountains? Well, it's almost like nature thought of that too. Down in the southwest, you don't find some easy way in. Nope, you find huge, swampy marshlands. Basically a perfect natural moat that would just swallow an invading army.
So even if you somehow manage to punch through those outer walls, what do you find? Not some lush, welcoming heartland, that's for sure. You're faced with two of the most hostile deserts on the entire planet. This crazy geography forces most of Iran's 90 million people to live up in the more defensible mountain areas, which means you don't have one big, easy target to aim for.
So yeah, it's a huge physical challenge, no doubt about it. But that geography? That's just layer one of the defense. Iran has another weapon up its sleeve, a kind of trump card that can literally hold the entire global economy hostage.
And to find that trump card, we have to head down to the Persian Gulf. This is where Iran's geography gets a whole lot more interesting on a global scale.
See, Iran just happens to control the entire northern coast of what is arguably the most important strategic choke point on Earth, the Strait of Hormuz. And what flows through this tiny little strip of water is the lifeblood of the modern world. Just let this number sink in. Every single day, a full 20%, that's 1/5 of all the oil the world uses, has to squeeze through this one tiny passage.
And it's not just oil, right? You add in other stuff, like all of Qatar's natural gas, and you're talking about something like 5% of the entire global economy. To put that in perspective, shutting down the strait, even for a little while, would be like hitting the delete button on $6 trillion of the world's economy. Just poof, gone.
And this is Iran's ultimate leverage. That rugged, mountainous coastline is the perfect place to hide missile batteries and naval bases. They have the power to basically turn off the world's economic tap whenever they want. It means any attack on Iran could trigger a global economic catastrophe. Okay, so we've got the geography and the economics. Those are huge, but they're not the whole story. To really get Iran's resilience, we have to look at its people. And this is where we find this really fascinating paradox. Something that can be a weakness, but also an incredible strength.
See, Iran isn't just one single ethnic group. It's this incredible mosaic of different peoples. You've got Persians, Azeris, Kurds, Arabs, and so many others, all with their own unique cultures and histories living side by side.
Now, on the one hand, that diversity can sometimes create friction inside the country. You get protests, disagreements, but here's the twist. History shows that the moment an outside force shows up and threatens the nation, all that friction tends to melt away and transform into this incredibly powerful, unified shield.
And you couldn't ask for a better example than the Iran-Iraq War. Back in 1980, Saddam Hussein invaded, and he made this huge bet. He thought Iran's ethnic minorities would join his side and the country would just collapse from within. Man, was he wrong. The invasion did the exact opposite. It created this powerful wave of national unity against a common enemy, and the war dragged on into an 8-year stalemate.
All right, there is one last final piece to this fortress puzzle, and it's a big one, literally. It's not just how high the mountains are, it's the sheer overwhelming size of the country itself.
Iran is just massive. We're talking over 1.6 million square kilometers. You could basically fit 2 countries the size of Pakistan inside of it. This is not some small target you can just roll into and take over in a few weeks. It's a strategic labyrinth.
And all that space creates something military planners absolutely dread. It's a concept called strategic depth. The basic idea is that the land itself becomes a weapon. The deeper an invading army pushes into the country, the longer and more vulnerable their supply lines get.
I mean, just imagine you're part of that invading force. First, you have to somehow break through the mountain barriers. Then, you've got to cross hundreds of kilometers of brutal, hostile desert. All the while, your supply lines for fuel, food, and ammo are getting stretched thinner and thinner, making them super easy to attack. By the time you finally got anywhere near a major city like Tehran, which is, of course, located deep inside the country, your army would be exhausted, undersupplied, and a sitting duck.
So, when you stack all of these layers on top of each other, the natural fortress, the economic choke point, the unique unity of its people, and its sheer vastness, the picture becomes pretty darn clear.
It's never just one thing. It's the powerful, overlapping combination of these 4 pillars. Iran's defense is a system, where every part reinforces the others. Together, they create a challenge that has, for centuries, been basically impossible to overcome with conventional military force.
And all of this leaves us with a really critical question for today. If the old playbook, invasion and occupation, is pretty much off the table here, what does that mean for the future of conflict? How do you challenge a nation that is, for all practical purposes, impossible to conquer?